Hi everyone, Jeremy here from VT Studio, and today a quick video to show you how to get the most out of our realistic digital screen pack. This pack contains over 25 assets to help you create realistic screen recording sequences like they were shot using a camera. It's a pack with great features like camera angles and LED screen effect. So if you're ready, let's jump right into it. Alright, so you can purchase this pack on the website. Once you get it, you will get the zip file. Just double click on it to unzip it. In the folder, you'll find a couple of things. You'll get the license, the installation instruction, the .gfx file to install, and the fonts. Please make sure to install all the font, otherwise the title will not work because DaVinci will not know what font to use. So just select all the font and then double click on them to start the installation process. Then you can select the .gfx file and double click on that to prompt open that pop-up, and here select install. Once that's done, you can go over to DaVinci Resolve and go over to the Effect tab, and you will find some in the title category and some in the effect categories. Let's start first with the titles. So here I'm just gonna open the drop-down, Feature Studio, and then I'm just gonna scroll all the way down until I find the realistic screen pack. Here we go. If we expand the menu, as you can see, we have a few categories. We have articles, miscellaneous, search, and socials. So all those are titles that you can drag and drop directly in your timeline. So for example, here, let's start with the article section. I'm going to select the first one and drag it here in our timeline. So here we'll have a simple article with a highlighter effect that is highlighting a passage of that article, a slight continuous zoom in, and we have a LED effect to just simulate a real screen that has been recorded with a camera. As usual, you can extend or reduce that title as much as you want. Now the playback should be pretty good out of the box, but if that's not the case, what I will always recommend is here going over to playback, select run the cache, and then select here smart. That will here prompt that red bar right above your asset. And basically when it turns from red to blue, that's gonna just cache in the title. And if you had some dropped frame when you were playing it, it will be completely fine once it has been turned fully blue. So I will recommend to do that with any asset. Generally for me, it's always in smart, but they should be working pretty smoothly out of the box. Now, first off, I'm going to share with you the kind of assets that are in the pack, and then we'll go into more detail into how to use them. If you want to try them for yourself, here we gave away that free Google search sample that you can download with a link in the description below, and that will allow you to just test everything and use it in your project so you can get a clearer idea if that pack is good for you or not. So as mentioned earlier, we have 4 different categories in the title. The first one being the articles. So here we have 4 different articles that you can choose from. They are all having that highlighting effect. So you can really highlight a specific passage of the article. They have different look. So we have this one as well, this one, and then this one that is emulating the New York Times or the Washington Post, for example. And we've basically really recreated the entire page right here. So everything you're seeing on screen is customizable. So you can change literally anything that you see. The reason we've done that is that often when you're going to go and let's say reference an article, you may have some advertising, or maybe the layout of the page is having different elements that don't allow you to have everything directly on screen. So that way you can kind of like replicate the article, but keeping it as clean as possible. So there is mostly the information that you need to display and no other access. But if for whatever reason you wanted to use an original screen grab from an article and give it that look, that's where the effect gonna come into play later on that I'm gonna share with you. So that's for the articles. Then we have some buttons and some details. So for example, here we have an add to cart button that you can use. We have a follow button. So it's switching from, follow to following. You can change that to whatever you want. They are not limited to that usage. It's just that here, for example, we have a single text that is getting clicked, and here we have a text that is changing from one to the other, but you can swap those texts for whatever you want. Then we have a simple search bar, and here we have a follow detail writing. Now for the next category in search, we have ChatGPT search. So here you can just prompt ChatGPT and it will just give you something. And then we here have a ChatGPT style search bar. We also have a Google search page, as well as the Google search writing that you can download with the link in the description below to test it out. And then here, just a URL top bar. And then finally, we have a few social media with here a Facebook post, an Instagram page, a YouTube channel, and then here YouTube comments. Again, here everything is fully customizable. So for example, for that Instagram page, you can change every single picture that are on that page and load anything that you want. So it's fully generated from Fusion. Now, if you want to do things differently and instead you want to use, let's say, a screen grab as your source, well, we can use effect instead. So here I'm just going to drag the screen recording that I just made in my timeline. And now we're going to be able to go over to effects. And we have a couple of effects that we can choose from to apply them directly here onto our screen recording. For example, here, the LED effect can be applied directly onto that. There is also here a YouTube template that can be applied as an effect rather than a title, because it can be applied directly into video to basically use that as a template to display any kind of video. All right, so now that you know what is in the pack, let me show you how to use all of those assets. Let's start first with the effect, since we're already in that tab right here. So I'm just gonna delete the LED and I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit more into my screen grab so we can have it fitted completely off screen. As you can see here, we have 6 different effects that we can choose from. We have a 3D, blur scroll, continuous zoom, cursor, highlighter, and then LED effect. Here there is an order with which those effects should be applied if you want to combine some of them. So for example, here the cursor and the highlighter needs to be applied before the LED effect. So that way the LED effect will be applied both on the visual of the screen grab as well as the cursor or the highlighter. If you place the cursor or the highlighter after the LED effect, well, it will be over the LED effect and therefore not affected by it. So right now, let's start by bringing, let's say, a cursor to our clip. Now, as you can see, we have our cursor right here. We can switch between different type of cursor. So here, I'm just gonna zoom in the composition so we can actually see it. We have here arrow number 1, arrow number 2, and then hand 1, hand 2. Then we have the text cursor and text cursor 2. And then we have the cursor progress from Mac, like the spinning wheel. You can adjust the size of that cursor. You can also adjust the position, so we can move that around. And then here we have control also over the shadow. So if you want to have a shadow strength that is stronger or no shadow at all, you can adjust that strength right here, as well as the drop angle, the drop distance, and the overall blur of that shadow. And as you can see right here, we still have access to the keyframe of the position. That means that we can basically keyframe that cursor to create action in our static composition. So what you can do is easily just here moving your cursor around, dropping a keyframe somewhere, then moving, a couple frame forward and then adjusting the position. So for example, it's clicking right here, and then you can basically play it. And as you can see, we have the cursor going here on that dashboard. Then after I can drop, let's say, another keyframe, move a couple frame forward again, and then we'll have it go right here onto the follow, let's say. There we go. And so now we're having it going to the dashboard, and then it's going over to the follow right here. So basically with this, you can create action on static screen grab. Now to give it a realistic look, what you can do is grab the LED effect and apply it directly here on the screen grab. Now with the LED effect, you might not be able to see too much right now with YouTube compression, but pretty much here you have control over a lot of stuff to give you the look that you want. Now it should look great already out of the box, but you can tweak all of those to give a different look to that LED screen effect. It is present in every single of the title, and I'll show you later on what each of those sliders are doing and how they can help you to create the style that you want. Then after this, we can use, for example, the 3D effect. So here, if I drag that directly here, as you can see, it has added that 3D effect with different camera angles. So here we have a custom pre-made 1, 2, and 3. So if I switch here to pre-made 1, as you can see, we'll have that angle, then premade 2 will have the angle on the other side, and then premade 3 will be that angle right here. So the cool thing is that you can also use that as a camera switcher. So you can switch between those different angles. So for example, here, let's say we're starting with this. And then if now you want to switch the angle, you can drop a keyframe and then move 1 frame forward. And then we can switch here to premade 1. And so, or like maybe premade 2 because it's very different. Here we go. And now you can have like 1 angle and then 2 angle. And then let's say we want to have a switch to a 3rd angle right here. We can just drop a keyframe again and then switch it to custom. And in custom, we can now adjust, let's say, the Z move. So we're gonna go closer to the follow button, for example. And then here I will make a slight rotation like this. There we go. And so now we're switching between 3 different angles very fast without making any cuts. So you could see that could be very powerful when you're creating your animation. If you have your cursor going from one side of the screen to the other, you can switch those angles directly. You can also keyframe those angles. So for example, here, if we were to, remove it and add it again and follow, for example, the click of the cursor, what we could do is here use the pre-made 3, and then with the cursor, we're gonna animate it to have the movement slide with the cursor. So here I'm gonna drop a first keyframe, then we're gonna move a couple of frames forward, and we're gonna just adjust the position. And so now we're having the position moving with the cursor. And then when it's gonna move to the follow, we can continue that movement by adding here another keyframe, moving a couple of frames forward, and then adjusting this. So now, as you can see, that could be really helpful to help you just like follow around the cursor, change up the angle, and having something that looks a bit more dynamic. Now we also have some continuous animation. So here we have a continuous zoom. You can drag that directly onto your clip. And now, as you can see, we'll have a zoom throughout the entire duration of the clip. You can choose to have that zoom being either a zoom in or a zoom out. Just with that button, you can choose between different type of curve, and you can choose the zoom scale. So here the zoom scale is basically the amount of the zoom. So if you increase that, as you can see here, the zoom is going to be more pronounced or less pronounced. And then finally, we have a blur scroll animation that you can drag as well right here. And it's just to introduce the clip. So here you'll have like a scrolling type animation with like a blurring happening. You can choose the length of that animation, the strength of the blur, the strength of the scroll, and the overall size. Now that's for all of the effect. As you can see, we still have that YouTube title. So basically this one is acting like an effect and a title. We just need to apply it directly to a video clip in order to be able to use the video, because otherwise we can't use video inside of the title. We can use only images. So here, for example, I've brought a clip in my timeline. I can just take here the YouTube video and drag it directly onto that clip. And basically the title will wrap around that video, and that video will live inside of that YouTube mask right here. And that will be the case for the entirety of the video. Other than that, it will behave exactly like any other title that we're going to see in a minute. So here, for example, at the beginning, we have an animation on the subscribe button. If you wish to remove it, we have here the ability to have it on or off. You can choose between different camera angles, you can choose the animation length, so on and so forth, and customize everything that you see on screen right here. All right, so that's it for the effect. Now let's jump into the title and show you how to use them and create sequences using them. So for that, we can go over back to title, Video Studio, and then go back to the realistic digital screen pack. All of those titles are sharing the exact same functionality, and I went into great detail explaining how to use them in the video that is linked in the description below. So I would highly recommend that you watch that video and that you are getting the sample so you can give it a shot and see if that works for you. So to avoid repeating myself too much, since I've already explained most of it in that video, I'm just gonna quickly brush over what you can do with it. But once you understand how it works, the same logic applies to every title in this pack. So here, let's get started with an article one. So I'm gonna drag one right here. And as you can see in the inspector, we have a bunch of stuff that we can adjust. We have the animation length in second for both the in and the out. In the case of the animation in, that refers mostly to the highlight effect, since there is no global animation in. If you wish to have some sort of animation, you can just drag that handle right here and you will have a small fade in animation. As well as right here in the camera angle, you can switch here from full screen to scroll. And if you select scroll, you will have a blur scroll animation, similar to the effect that we saw earlier. And then here for the animation out, you have by default none, but you can select, for example, here slide up or any of the other one available right here, and you will have an animation out on the entirety of the clip. Now, as mentioned, you can modify the look of everything that you see right here on screen. We have the overall size and position for the entirety of what you see in your viewer. We have the top text. So right here, you can switch that to a video editor, for example, or whatever magazine you're taking. You can switch also the font. Right now it was to emulate, a Time magazine or a Washington Post, a sans serif type font like this. But you can select any font you want to have, like, for example, a more modern look or anything that you have available. Then here you have the main quote that you can adjust. So for example, DaVinci Resolve is easy to use. As you can see, the highlighter is adapting automatically to your quote to highlight the entirety of that quote. Then you can also change the article text. So here you can swap that to whatever you want, as well as the background. So here, if you want the header instead of black to be, let's say, red, you could do that right here. And same thing here for the background color. If you wish to have it, let's say, being darker, like a gray or something like that, you could do that right here. Now, the main core feature of those titles are within the LED effect and the camera angles. So the LED effect is pretty straightforward and should work out of the box, and you shouldn't really necessarily need to make any tweak, but still you have full control depending on the look that you are looking for. So here you pretty much have three groups. You have the pixel frequency, aliasing, and mosaic blur blend, which are affecting basically the quality of the text and the amount of damage that it has to have a pixelated look or not. Then we have the size, gain, and blend, which are affecting mostly the LEDs. So here, if I increase the size completely, as you can see, we basically have a LED grid that is applied above, and that is basically merged with our composition. And we're basically affecting here the gain of those LED and the overall blend of those LED, as well as I just show you the size right here. So obviously you don't want them to be, all the way up like that. You want them to be fairly small, but that's what gave that kind of like if you were to film a screen or a TV with your phone or a digital camera. And then the third group is just the overall contrast, gain, brightness, saturation, etc. of the entirety of the composition. So here you can, for example, increase the overall saturation, you can increase the overall brightness, the overall gamma, the high and low threshold, as well as the screen glow. So you can basically tweak that to get the look that you want. By default, everything is set up so it looks pretty neutral. So it looks basically realistic, but fairly neutral, and it's not too visible. But for example, if you don't want to have any LED screen on those, you can simply here kill the size all the way down to 0, and you will not have any grid or any LED, and that will look fairly clean and modern, kind of like if it were an actual screen grab and not something that's been recorded with a camera. On the other hand, if you want to have a look that is a bit more lofi and damaged, and that look like, you've recorded the screen with like a phone, for example, well, what you can do is here, I'm just going to zoom so you can realize how much it's affecting the composition. We can add here the mosaic blur, so that will basically blur out the text a little bit, and we can play around with the aliasing and the pixel frequency to basically distort the text a little bit. And those things don't seem like much, but as you can see, when we are zooming out, it basically greatly affects the text, and it might just make the text look, a bit more damaged, which might be the quality that you expect if you're recording a screen with your phone or with a camera, for example. Then you could increase the saturation quite a lot, just to give it like a greener tint. We could play around with the overall size of the LED, play around as well with the contrast, increasing maybe the glow a little bit. And already those subtle change are giving you a different look that is in a way a bit more realistic in my opinion. Now we have the camera angle as well. So that's the camera angle that you see right here. Full screen, text follow max, scroll, and 3D. You have a bunch of different stuff that you can adjust for each of those sections. So here you could keyframe those as well to create sequences. So for example, we could start with full screen, and then in the middle of that highlight going on, we could just switch that to, let's say here, text follow, and we will have basically here the full screen and then the text follow happening. So that can help you to create like a more dynamic sequence. Now again, the goal is that you are using those sequentially to create a sequence that makes sense. So for example, you could use here in search, let's say the first one was the Google search, searching something specific, and then having the actual response of that Google search right here, and then following up with the article. And that, with 3 titles right here, you could basically create, a sequence of 10 seconds explaining, that you were looking for something and that you find a specific article. That can be great for, let's say, a documentary or any video where you need to reference materials. That's pretty much it. Hope this video was helpful. Again, you can find that pack available on our website. And if you want to check the sample, it's in the description as well. So you can try it for yourself and see if that's a good fit for you. Again, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Speed up your workflow and create better videos using the pack available on our website, including titles, transition, and templates built only for DaVinci Resolve. Get started today by downloading our free starter pack that contains over 150 elements. Link in the description below or at videoeditorstudio.com.